Hey, Sockdrawer family. This is Lisa here. What if the reason you feel overwhelmed right now isn't because you're doing too little, but it's because you're trying to carry too much? We've all been there, right? And I'm excited for this episode because you're going to hear from someone who has spent over 30 years helping organizations simplify complexity. But what you might not expect is this. He's not going to tell you to do more. He's going to show you how to think differently. We talk about why your brain feels overloaded in today's world, how one small shift in your morning can completely change your clarity. And, something else, why something as simple as just taking a walk might be the reset you've been missing. If you've been feeling stuck, distracted, we're all there, and you can't even get out of your own way, this conversation is going to meet you exactly where you are. Let's get into it.
I have ADHD. The way that manifests itself is that I am sometimes hyper-focused on things with the ability to single-mindedly destroy something that's in front of me as a problem with great pleasure and relish and in a very small amount of time. And then there are days where there is so much chatter in my brain, right? I think we all, to some degree, have this, right? You've got your kids, you've got your job, you've got your household that you're dealing with, you've got your pets, you've got maybe your other job, you've got your passions, the things that you want to do, relationships, family. And I am a person who, there are days where it can be debilitating for me to just simply sit down and write a 3-line email.
Everyone has a sock drawer where we hide the stuff we don't want to face. Today, we're opening yours. I'm Lisa Begley, and this is the Sock Drawer Podcast. If your life feels messy, stuck, or outgrown, good. That's where we begin.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sock Drawer Podcast. Listen, what if the reason you feel stuck right now, it's not because you're unclear. It's because everything around you is way too complicated. And I know we've all felt that at some point. And what if clarity, it isn't something you find, but it's something you actually design? Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sock Drawer Podcast. This is a space where we open the drawer, sort through the mess, and figure out what stays, what goes, and what actually matters moving forward. Because let's be honest, life doesn't fall apart all at once. It drifts until something or someone helps you see clearly again. And today's conversation is going to do exactly that for us. Today's episode is brought to you by Project Icon, helping leaders, founders share their story, build their brand, and find their voice. Today, I get to sit down with Alen Yen. Alen is the president and creative director of iFactory, where for over 30 years, he's helped organizations, especially in education and nonprofits, turn their complex ideas into clear, meaningful digital experiences. He's worked on over 500 projects. But what stood out most to me is this. His superpower is making information simple, accessible, and actually enjoyable. And in a world that can feel overwhelming, noisy, and cluttered, which, let's be honest, most of us feel that might be one of the most important skills we can learn. Alen, thank you for being here. Welcome to the Sock Drawer Podcast family.
Lisa, I am so pleased to be here. Thank you so much for welcoming me.
It is our pleasure. I'm excited for this conversation. Now, I always take it back a little bit, right? You've spent decades helping organizations simplify complexity. But what I want to start with is, was there a moment in your own life in the past where things felt unclear or messy, and you kind of had to, for yourself, find some clarity before you could actually help others find it?
Yeah, I would say it's actually a chronic sort of issue for me.
Really?
I am a person, I'm driven. I'm always thinking about stuff. I've got a touch of neurodivergence. And so my way in life is to pursue many, many things as often as possible. And it very quickly gets my drawer overloaded. And I find myself needing to get into modalities where I find my way again, right? Where something can kind of clarify itself to me and I can prioritize and get through there. And it's not that easy to do always. And so it's taken me probably 3 or 4 decades to work out what works for me in terms of methodologies for being clear-headed and being able to do the things that I want to do that give me pleasure in life.
Gosh. So for our listeners, you mentioned something I would love to just get a quick explanation on. And for anybody who doesn't know, neurodivergence, you said I have a touch of neurodivergence. Can you give us a quick explanation so people understand where you're coming from?
Sure. I have ADHD. The way that manifests itself is that I am sometimes hyper focused on things with the ability to single-mindedly destroy something that's in front of me as a problem with great pleasure and relish in a very small amount of time. And then there are days where there is so much chatter in my brain, right? I think we all, to some degree, have this, right? You've got your
Yeah.
kids, you've got your job, you've got your household that you're dealing with, you've got your pets, you've got maybe your other job, you've got your passions, the things that you want to do,
Yeah.
relationships, family. And I am a person who, there are days where it can be debilitating for me to just simply sit down and write a 3-line email. Or
Mm.
this morning it was pay my excise tax, or do something else like that, which only requires a few simple steps to get
Yeah.
done. But I will find myself locked into a position where I'm physically incapable of moving forward. And so a
Mm.
lot of my coping tactics are around trying to move myself into a place of momentum, to shift my inertia, and to clarify my thinking process so that I can do these easy tasks, which really shouldn't be that big a deal.
Yeah, but they do feel that way. Thank you for explaining that. So,
Yeah,
you
not
know,
at all.
to your point, exactly. So many people, they listening, they feel stuck, they feel overwhelmed. They don't even know where to start. So how do you sift through that? Why do you think we overcomplicate things so much in our work and in our lives?
Maybe some of it is stuff that we do to ourselves. I think I try to take a step back. I'm a
Yeah.
person who's worked in information technology, right? Worked in the web since its inception in, really the early 90s when it became something that hit all of us suddenly at once. And, we're not really ready for this as a species. So yes, life is complicated and it's messy. Our parents dealt with that. Their parents dealt with that as well.
Yeah.
But maybe they had 8 or 9 bogeys that they were dealing with. We are constantly being flooded with information. We are doing it for ourselves, to
Mm.
ourselves, right? When we relax, we look at phones, we look at websites, we look at social media, and we are inhaling a constant and steady stream of imagery, text, ideas, distractions. So I think the sense of being overwhelmed these days has increased for everybody,
Yeah.
and the sense of always needing to be on or always doing something. Like you go shopping, you've got your phone out, you go to the bathroom, maybe you've got your phone with you at night, you're looking at stuff. It's really difficult to
Yeah.
navigate, I think, the modern world too, because you can't just say I want to unplug too, right? Because maybe your kids are texting you, or there's stuff happening from work or other things like that. You're not allowed to unplug because so many of us are trying to stay connected with each other really at all times of the day. So that's a big part of what I think is something that we're all dealing with.
Yeah. So, and you talk a lot about making things simple. So taking all of that, what can that actually look like for someone?
I'll use an example. I wake up and generally I'm working on 20 projects at a time at work. I'm managing 2 or 3 companies. I've got multiple hobbies. But something that surfaced for me over the summer last year was that I woke up and I realized I had a book in me that I wanted to write.
Mm.
This sits down here in the list. The
Yeah.
dog's got to get walked. The kids got to get to school.
Yeah.
Bills have to get paid. And here I am saying to myself, I have this thing I want to make. And like, that is not even remotely realistic, right?
Mm.
But I'm blessed enough to have some coaches in my life and other people who think a lot about how to be fulfilled in life, right?
Mhm.
How to get to those dreams and aspirations. And I got some really, really great advice from people. And one of the things that my coach Mel helped me figure out was, you kind of have this golden moment in the morning when you wake up. You haven't picked up your phone yet. Nobody's awake, maybe. And what do you use that for? This, you described before that you're so clear headed and everything is so magical for you at the moment. Well, I get up and I start doing my email. It's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Well,
interesting. Yeah. And
yeah.
then I check the news and then I do my social media stuff. It's like, oh, okay. So you're telling me you have this modality where everything is easy for you and you're able to access deep feelings and insights. You're using it on this other stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to fill that moment with something else, right?
Yeah.
And so just with a simple change, right? Just promising myself that when I got up in the morning, I'd leave the phone aside. I wouldn't open the computer unless it was to work on this thing that I wanted to work on, really started this magical change, right?
Yeah.
Because just even for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes of the day, waking up and starting with this thing that I was trying to create out of nothing
Mhm.
changed my entire mindset for the rest of the day.
Mm.
So then I'm back to distractions, I'm back to other things, I'm back to other stuff like that. But I started the day the right way. And then that little current would just kind of follow me for the next couple of hours. And then I would find that I would make time to go back and do this thing that I wanted to do.
So good. And I think we all have that few minutes. What did you call it? Golden moment in the morning that
Yeah.
if we did replace it with something, that's just been waiting for us at the bottom. I love that so much. So now you've worked with big organizations. So that's kind of on a one-on-one sort of scale. How do you take that same kind of thought process or idea and make it, which can be, I would assume, 10 times more complex for a brand or an organization and plug it in?
For yourself, you mean, like for your own life? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's right. Well, I'd say after 30 years of consulting, the superpower is not anything technical in my mind. It
Okay.
starts with empathy. Like the
Mm,
number one thing you have to have when you are trying to help other people is the ability to empathize. Connected to that are things like the ability to listen, the ability to resynthesize and bring ideas back to someone in a different light, to move forward creatively, right? But those are sensors and those are reactions that
mm,
are byproducts or inputs to this other notion, which starts first with like deeply, deeply caring about the
yeah.
person who's sitting across the table from you and wanting to be genuinely curious about what is going on with them and taking the time to listen, to unravel, to listen before you jump right in and start to solve things, right? And I think that's another thing. We're in flight, right? We're in the middle of our lives. We're in the middle of our days. You and I are
Yeah.
like, we're mid morning, we're going, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if we always give ourselves the same grace that we give to a friend or a colleague or a
Yeah.
client, right? And so one use of that golden time, if you will, right, could
Yeah.
be just stepping back and taking a moment to be in touch with the things that you're thinking and feeling, that you're dreaming about, without any kind of judgment, without jumping right into the how am I going to get it done today? How am I going to do this? Just taking notes, talking out loud, even which is something I did into my phone a lot, just expressing yourself and giving yourself that permission, right? To
Yeah.
just put data on the table without trying to solve something.
Hmm.
The solving can come later, right? But if you don't
Yeah.
empathize with yourself the way you would empathize with somebody else first, you can't really get there.
That's so good. I'm wondering, Alan, what do you think? Do you think clarity is, based on what we talked about, ADHD and all of that, is clarity something do you think that people are born with or something they can build into their lives?
I don't know about everybody else, right? I'm
Yeah.
very drawn to the notion of the sock drawer because I am a person who both consciously and unconsciously fills, right?
Yeah.
And I believe, just for myself, right, that education and observation and creativity allow you to break any kind of cycle or to improve anything, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big yes for me, right?
Yeah.
I think it that you can work on. It's not
Yeah.
always easy. If something is artificial and doesn't feel natural and doesn't support your lifestyle, like let's say a bad diet, to use like an example, right? I'm going to
Yeah.
starve myself for 6 days. Well, you'll get some short-term gain out of it, and then you'll crash harder and it won't work out, right? So the secret
Right.
is you're back to how do you build sustainable efforts and patterns that you can go back to every day that become nourishing and become part of a virtuous cycle, one that you don't have to think too hard about because you're
Hmm.
too busy enjoying it.
Yeah, I love that. I think building patterns and, like you said, strategies for long term is so much better. So you've been in your industry now for 35 years. I want to dig into this a little bit. And you've also recently, like you talked about, stepped into writing. So what does reinvention look like for you at this stage of life? Like, where are we at?
Well, just in my industry, the interesting thing is if you really love stability and getting deeply good at something, you just can't work in tech, right? So
Mhm.
since I got into it in
Yeah.
my 20s, you just expect to see some sort of massive upheaval that challenges all of your assumptions and destroys all of your foundations about every 5 years or so, right?
Yeah.
So first we had web browsers, then we at some point we had smartphones. Now we're all dealing with AI, right?
Yeah.
It's hitting all of us as creators and makers and communicators. It's distorting our reality even. So
Yeah.
we're navigating it just as citizens. So the first thing I would just say is that like you don't have any choice about it. That the change is coming and you kind of have to accept it, right?
Yeah.
These days, for me, what the work looks like is just doing a lot of accepting. Like
Yeah.
just this is coming, there's disruption, you think about that, And then taking steps back to figure out, well, where are the joys for what you do, right? And for someone at my stage of career, right, it used to be I loved making graphic design or interface designs for clients. I did some cool stuff for Lego or Oxford University Press or the World Bank or
Yes.
whatever. Yeah, and that was immensely satisfying, right? To design shapes and interactions and motion that would produce really important results for people, right? These days, I'm really people focused, right? Because what I see in distributed communities and remote working situations, clients that don't always get together face to face anymore, is that we're just so fractured from a
Yeah.
community standpoint. Our human connection is so watered down these days, right? So anything that we can do to develop cultures where people bond with each other, they become better teammates, they learn to trust each other, that is my joy. Just seeing a group of people get together and trust each other and be able to carry forward something and do something awesome together. It's just like
That's
absolute pleasure for me.
I love that. So tell me, so you have a pretty large team, right? Tell me iFactory. Tell me a little bit about it and what does day to day look like there and how do you do that with your team?
Yeah, we've got about 30 people in our division, and we've got about 70 people in our agency overall, RDW Group, which is also a company that I own. And amongst those 30 people, we used to all be concentrated in the Boston area. And so we would be working on 10 or 15 different website projects at any given time. We would have these big open plan offices and meeting
Yeah.
areas and whiteboards, and it was creative in that way. You've got like every mode of person, right? People who are
Yeah.
deep into content research or SEO and analytics or creative design or software development. And that's really one of the best things. They are these incredible, the team is incredible. It's just smart
Yeah.
people who love what they do. They trust each other. Stuff happens. Now things are a little bit different in that post-COVID, we moved to a remote office, and it did a couple of things. The first thing was suddenly we were talking with and meeting with new teammates on the West Coast, in Florida and Iowa, everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And that changed us culturally in a really cool way, and also changed how we work. Now we have to do things a lot more remotely. We use things with tools that we didn't do in the past, but we still try really hard to have that culture of trust and camaraderie and empathy.
Yeah.
It takes work. You end up talking about it a lot more while you're doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Remote, I mean, boy, 6 years ago, our world changed, and
Yeah,
it just moved everything. You mentioned this earlier. It just moved everything and changed up our whole world of connection. And I
yeah,
miss it, and I feel
yeah,
surprisingly, we're not there. I don't even think we're 30% there yet. We're just
yeah,
still so disconnected as a society. But, you know, people listening, it's hard to figure out what to do in not only in a big company, but just day to day,
yeah.
friendships, relationships, things like that. And if someone listening right now feels stuck, they're mentally cluttered, what is something small, simple that they could take today to create clarity?
So I'm biased, and if someone listening is differently abled, I would suggest the equivalent of this. But my number one thing is go for a walk. Like
I love that.
without any judgment, without any, please don't multitask. Don't be like, I will walk to the grocery store, I will walk while I take this phone call, right?
Yeah,
Our bodies are meant to move. I'm a chronic marathoner. It's part of my identity these days.
I saw that.
And yeah, and I've found
Yeah.
that movement, there's a lot of science that backs this, right?
Mhm.
Motion sets you into different mind frames. It helps you recast things. It does has all sorts of net benefits that are wonderful, right?
Yeah.
Period. But in terms of an indulgence that allows you to have the time to step back, to shift into a different kind of flow state, just simply choosing to be outside, experience whatever weather it is, even if it's a little bit rainy or a little bit cold or a little bit hot or whatever. That's a luxury that I allow myself, I force myself to have
Hmm.
every day, even when I don't want to. If you have a dog, great. Then you're already, aware of this, right?
Yeah.
And I'll let what happens happens. If
Yeah.
it's nothing, I need that because I'm thinking about stuff all the time. And sometimes
Yeah.
that is the only time during the day where my brain can ramp down. And then what happens is you come back and you have a solution for something by not thinking about it and not worrying
Yeah.
about it, right? If
Yeah.
something does come out while you're walking, you let yourself have that conversation with yourself. You listen, you let it tease out. The longer you can go, the better. I say 15 minutes, but really what I mean is like an hour and a half if you have the luxury to do it, right?
Yeah. I
So
agree.
That's
So helpful.
that's my cure all for everything.
Here, I'll take a walk, 5 minutes,
Yeah,
10 minutes,
yeah.
an hour, whatever it is.
Bike
So
ride, whatever.
bike ride, yeah, just get outside. That too has been, so helpful. So let me ask you this. So let's get back to your book for a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that?
I
Do
think
you have
I
it?
should have just had one in front of me, but I
Nice.
wrote a book called 50 Ways to F Up a Marathon.
I love the
It's,
title.
yeah, I thought about like, do I want to write something a little bit more politically correct or a little bit
Yeah.
easier to digest? And I was like, no, my marathoning is born out of tragedy and
Oh,
failure. And no, it's okay. It's okay. And I basically just decided that I've messed up so many things that are so funny. I'm just going to write them all down. And then I realized I had all these friends who had similar sort of stories, and I started collecting them. And together we kind of co-created this amazing manual on how to have the best marathon you can possibly have by
yeah.
just avoiding dumb things that we've all done in the past. So
Yeah. Well, you
fun
know what?
book.
This, thank you. The Sock Drawer podcast. So I'm going to dig in here a little bit because the Sock Drawer podcast it's about reinvention. It's about messing up
Yeah.
and figuring out how to get beyond that. So you mentioned that story. It was born out of Can you share a little bit of detail on that and how it came about?
Yeah, I signed up for my first marathon after the Boston Marathon bombing, which is a big
Mm,
deal in my area. I'm north
mhm.
of Boston,
Yeah.
and I've lived in Boston for years, and I was a recreational runner and didn't think anything about it. But something happened that day. I think our city
Mm,
came together, and
mm,
a kind of identity rose, and for whatever reason, any number of people decided I'm going to be a part of this. I want to make this safe again. I want to take this back. And it was a very, deep experience. I trained for it. I did things that other people did. I showed up wrecked, my body, like I
mm.
crossed the line. My feet were mangled. I was like internal bleeding in
Gosh.
my arms.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
was like, I mean, it was a hot mess. And I just was like, how is
yeah.
this so awful? And I did it 5, 6, 7 more times, and everywhere around me, I had just had these friends who were doing really good at it, and I was like, why am I so terrible at it? So it just sort of set me
Yeah.
down the road of being like, I'm going to read everything, I'm going to learn everything I can, and
Yeah.
chronicle my adventures. And that started 15 years ago. And so here I am 15 years later, and I think I've figured it out. I'm pretty good at them these days. I do pretty well.
Yeah.
I've qualified for Boston. I've done other things. And
Amazing.
I'm just sort of filled with like I have a joy about it. I just want to share
Yeah.
with people how great the experience can be, and don't do this, right? Because you'll have a
Yeah.
better day if you don't.
Yeah. So this book is for who? Who would benefit most from this book?
It's for anybody even thinking about running a marathon. Certainly anyone signed up for it. And if you
Okay.
are a person who is living with somebody who is talking about it all the time, you have my empathy and my condolences. You can read the book too to help your friend or your spouse or your partner out.
Yeah.
So it's basically for anybody in that zone.
Yeah. Did you ever find out, was there something specific going on that was different for you that made it more difficult? Or was it just maybe where you weren't training the right way? Or was it?
I'll give you like the top 5 hits that people don't know. Like when you train, you've got to run at different speeds. Eating and fueling is more important than people would think.
Yeah.
And maybe the other thing I'll just say is like it has nothing to do, very little to do with the day of the marathon. What you do for the 3 months ahead of time
Yeah.
dictates what you do on that day. And as a person who is very capricious and improvisational and loves to wake up every day trying to do something different without any kind of expectations, that's a bad way to plan for a marathon. You got to have a plan and you got to stick to it. So
Okay. All right. See, I wouldn't have known that. So, okay, the book is called
50 Ways to F Up a Marathon is on Amazon. It's at Barnes and Noble. It's at pretty much all bookstores if you're
You
looking for
can
it.
get it anywhere, you guys. And it's not just for those wanting to run a marathon. I guarantee there's more nuggets
Yeah.
in there for pretty much anybody and life in general. So go take a look at that. And now iFactory, Alan, who benefits from iFactory? What type of organizations?
So we are Boston's longest serving digital agency. We have been around pre-web, and we were
Mm,
founded to serve educators and publishers and not-for-profits. So the
okay.
shorthand is like, if you do good, if you're trying to do good in the world, if you're a humanistic organization, we
Mm,
want to be your friends. We want to help out. There have been organizations who have been impacted by things in the last few years. We've just said, what do you need? Let us know. We'll jump in and we'll help out, right?
amazing.
We've been around for a long time. Our goal is to contribute to education and to people's well-being, and that's our passion as a group.
I love that. And we'll put all of this links to both the book and iFactory in the show notes for sure. And Alan, We talked a little bit about this prior to jumping on here. We, every episode, do a 60-second drawer dash. It's just a quick, fun, fast, like lightning round. Say the first thing that comes to mind. Are you good with throwing it out there?
Yeah, let's go. I'm totally psyched.
Okay, I think I know the answer to this first one, but are you a morning person thinker or a night person thinker?
Morning if I have to pick.
Yeah. Paper and pen or digital everything?
Paper and pen.
Oh, I love that. One word people overuse right now.
AI.
I was hoping I hadn't said it. One thing people should simplify immediately.
Schedule.
Gosh, I love that one. A book that shifted your perspective.
Running the Dream by Matt Fitzgerald. Fantastic read.
Biggest creative risk you've taken.
Writing this book in 6 weeks.
Weeks. Okay, we should have talked more about that. Something about you that people, wouldn't expect.
When I'm sad, I watch terribly cheesy award shows where people who should not do well get up and sing, and then sing beautifully, and then the crowd erupts into tears and standing ovations, and then I just sit there on my computer and I bawl.
Okay, I need to know more about this now.
I went deep there. I laid it all out there, okay?
You did. Thank you for that. That's what we look for. That's what we want. But now I have to dig into that just a little bit. Can you give me a show? Give me a hint. What's a show you would turn
all of them? Britain's Got Talent, American Idol, and I am not a reality television. I'm not even a television person. But there is something about people who, when they're in the zone and they're singing and they're on a stage and their dream is in front of them and they're terrified, and then they pull it off, my heart just jumps out of my chest, and it keeps me going as a human being.
I love that. All right. So, Alen, we always, as we talked about, we leave our listeners with something small but meaningful. And I know we talked about going for a walk, but if you gave our listeners a tiny dare, a challenge, what is something they could do in the next 24 hours to create more clarity in their life?
Treat your body and your physical health as you would your intelligence or your finances, right? Mm-hmm. I'm an art student. I came from an art background. I was never physically active. It wasn't something that was prized in my household or my upbringing, right? Like, I played sports, I did some stuff, right? But somewhere in my life in the last 10 years ago, I realized that the smartest people around me were looking at their bodies, their whole selves, and realizing this is the vehicle that I only have one of. Nothing works if I get ill or I'm immobilized or I start to degrade in different ways. And, we're all headed for aging, right? But if you are a person who prides yourself on being financially smart, ask yourself why you're not physically smart if you're not there, right? Investing in your physical health. If you are a person who prizes relationships with people or your children, but you are not physically active and thinking about your health, ask yourself why you're not investing in that. Because in order for you to be around for those people and to continue to love them and to be there for them, you have to be physically fit and active, right? So your 15 minutes a day, whatever it means to you, whether it's going out for a walk, eating a little bit better, reading a book, or popping up a podcast or something else like that, that sets you down the road of healthfulness. Find your own definition of that and invest in it like you would in your 401k or anything else like that, because it is the single most important thing you can do for yourself.
Invest in yourself. I love that. Alen, gosh, I feel like we could talk for another half an hour. This has been such a powerful conversation. And I think for our listeners, just thank you for bringing not just your experience, but your perspective, clarity, simplicity, and what that really matters. Not only that, but why it really matters. We all have your links, I'm going to make sure everything's in the show notes, your work, and how people can connect with you. If there's one thing to take from today, it's this. Clarity isn't something reserved for certain people. It's not a personality trait. It's a decision that you can make for yourself every day. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not add more, but remove maybe what's no longer needed. Those golden moments when you first wake up, I love that. Think about those. What do you do? And how can you replace it with something more important to you, right? Something you want to do. If this episode made you pause or think, see something differently, do me a favor, share it with somebody you know might be needing it right now. And if you're in a season where things feel messy or unclear, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you as well. Thank you so much for being here, Alen. I just loved it.
It was my pleasure, Lisa. I had so much fun talking with you, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take one brave step today, y'all, and we'll see you next time on the Sock Drawer Podcast. Take care.
Every week we come here and open the drawer. You already know what's inside. You always have. And if this conversation challenged you in a good way, and you think it will help challenge someone else who needs it, send it to them, because that's how we pay it forward together. Subscribe and follow so you never miss what's coming next. And find us at thesockdrawerpodcast.com.